Hi there, I'm Joss Whedon.
And I'm Alexis Denisof.
And he's Alexis Denisof.
He's Joss Whedon.
And we'll be your commentary buddies for this exciting episode of Angel.
We'll be singing along.
No, please don't.
You're right.
Okay, so where do we start? Here's Andy with his fabulous cabaret routine. I want to say a couple things up front. First of all, that this show was my attempt. It started out with Mr. Denisof, which is one of the reasons why he's here with me. We were reminiscing about the days when he was a complete idiot, a bumbling moron, and
obviously we're speaking about the show.
Oh yeah, and also on the show. That's a good point. And so we thought, we really want to see old school Wesley, but also cool new school Wesley. So the idea of doing a spell where everybody went back, and we got to see old snarky Cordelia and find out a little bit about what people were like when they were kids. That was kind of how it all started. It was me saying, I want to see Alexis fall down again. I don't get enough of that.
My back had just gotten better from season 2, and we decided.
Now here's my exciting piece of trivia here. This show picks up exactly the moment that the last show ended, when she says, were we in love? And Charisma actually asked if she could get a haircut. She hadn't gotten the new script and didn't know that it started exactly at the same moment. So we said, no, you can't cut your hair between episodes because, we're picking up at the exact same time. And then David got a haircut. And we didn't, because, he just did. And so we were so worried about her. But luckily you can't really tell because he didn't get it cut dramatically at all. So I was like, fine, continuity is fine. Shot this entire scene without having seen the final cut of the episode before it. And then, as you, the viewer, who may just have watched the episode before it, will know, he had a huge wound on his cheek.
Not anymore.
No, it's just gone. He healed while she asked him. Maybe he blushed and it healed his cheek. But
vampires have remarkable powers of healing. You've established that.
Yes, I think that's my theory, and I'm running with it. I certainly wasn't angry at the makeup guy, and his name certainly isn't Dane.
Dane, if you're out there.
But that's the thing. It's hard to keep that continuity.
That the only other continuity challenge this season was trying to keep Wesley's beard the same length all year.
Amazingly enough, it never got bigger, never got smaller.
That took so much meditation on my part. Do not grow, oh you hairs of my face.
Just suck them back in. Just keep holding them in.
But what we're watching now, Joss, this scene. What are they talking about?
Oh, it's her memory loss and the pain of it, and the fact that even though she wonders if they were in love, they can't. Really
Yeah. Let's get on to the funny bit. No, okay.
Don't worry, a funny-looking character will show up and make jokes really soon. We won't have all this sentiment. But Lauren, who, has a magic spell that can't go wrong. And if you don't think that's lazy writing, then you really just don't know.
Nobody's ever done that before.
One of the things that, we had done a spell where everybody lost their memory on Buffy.
Yeah.
The credits. So we tried to make this as different as possible, but it is a time-honored device. Always makes for the fun. Okay, he's skinny there.
Was he skinny, or did you stretch the frame?
There was some skinniness.
Okay.
I think he's going to make it big, Boreanaz. I think he's got a thing, and he'll get his break one day.
You think so?
J. August.
Somebody should give him a show.
I think so. Amy Acker, ugly, ugly girl.
Keep it down over there. I know it's him, but try to keep the noise down, everybody.
We're helping him along as best we can. He's part of the show.
Joss Whedon!
Thank you. This, by the way, is just, more insane self-indulgence from the man who brought you Once More with Feeling. I really wanted to do the idea of the wraparound as a cabaret act. just really appealed to the extraordinarily sort of dramatic and over the top. I mean, the colors, the blues and the reds. This was actually harder to do than you'd think.
Yeah, where did you guys shoot this? Because obviously we had nothing to
Well,
do
you see,
with
this shot, we actually shot in the garden.
Yeah.
We stole a piece of the curtain and just shifted the lighting as we came
Oh,
around.
okay.
But then the actual
The
sequence
nightclub
we did,
stuff.
it was just a nightclub that had a stage that was
Paramount?
that was next to the alley where we had to shoot Connor. So
Side effects. This thing turns me into Musaka. I'm happy.
use of Musaka,
Yeah.
funny.
Probably the first time that word's been used in
Certainly on one of my shows.
all of your shows. Yeah.
We'll be good to go.
Did you get a lot of letters from the Greek community about that?
They were excited. They felt that I had. Now this, oh, I love this. Yeah, was just like he's James Bond. He has the awesomest tools.
It's true. I think you even put that in the script.
Yeah, I did.
Like a little cue to the actor.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you are 007 in this scene.
Yes. Remember the tank top they had you in?
Oh, that's right. We had a few wardrobe tests, didn't we?
Yeah, that didn't quite work out.
But the rippling pecs were a little distracting.
You can't be stronger and more beautiful than Angel. People won't accept that. It will confuse them. Oh yeah, the cameraman coming around. Step by step.
Yeah.
This was a hard shot for him.
He was struggling, the poor guy. He broke into a sweat on this.
I was like, oh, we'll do it in a oneer, and you'll come all the way around him, and it'll be great. I loved being off you when you mentioned Fred. Just seeing a little bit of Fred. Because she's just had the problem with gun. And Jay said to me, now, I have this shirtless scene, and then I have a scene where I say, I guess I'm the muscle. You may want to change that line. But of course, and they had a whole scene that we had to trim out because, of course, everything I do comes out too long because when I write, I can't shut up. But I like this shot because it's a big oneer.
Yeah, this was amazing.
It goes all the way to your entrance, which is fun.
This was really fun to do.
This space is great to shoot in, although it's a nightmare in some ways because it's big and empty, as we've all mentioned, and has the giant poof. But you can really work a crane in here.
It's very tall ceilings on this set.
Well, this was my first show in a studio and not a little warehouse like Buffy. So.
They really got it done when they built this. Do you remember year one in that little cave of a cellar?
The little cave of a cellar, yes.
I think he still thought you were over at the Buffy stages that year.
There we go. All in one. I love connecting things like that.
Yeah, that was amazing. You did 180 degrees there, didn't you?
Yep.
May your words please the gods.
Oh.
Are you all right?
Feel the heat.
Yes, here's a little tension between you.
Now, this is also one of my favorite things.
Okay, first of all,
That's the sweet shot where you have Fred and Wesley up close, but they're divided by gun in the distance. Nice symbolism there.
Not the most original, but not wrong.
Andy's on fire. I don't know if you can see all the smoke coming off him.
And is this on is something that we say in the writer's room constantly. But to do something as strange and postmodern as this, it was just so much fun.
Were you doing all these pushes because you wanted to start freaking people out in preparation for the spell? Because when I watched this, I remember noticing that there were a lot of fast-moving push-ins.
It was just a way of sort of keeping this the oddness of the story, the almost postmodern feel. Even the screen wipe was designed specifically to have him on one side and her on the other, so that we could use those things and use the sort of artificiality of the nightclub gets us into what happens in the spell.
He's a man. So you're perfectly okay with just one.
And ladies and gentlemen, when you leave that room and step into that corridor, it's about 12 feet long and goes absolutely nowhere. It takes a lot of conviction to exit these rooms.
Hey, it was a big deal that we got a corridor.
Yeah.
That's
I think
production
we were
values,
fought
pal.
on that issue, weren't we?
Yes. Oh, this is one of my favorite scenes.
Oh, this is the little contretemps.
Yeah, it's got a croissant sort of a je ne sais Arc de Triomphe, really, to it.
Ooh, easy.
Sorry, I don't. You talk fancy. I remember telling Ross, the DP, take all of the light off Gunn's face. I was like, think Michael Corleone in that shot in Godfather 3, where the hands are lit and the face isn't. Just to sort of bring him into shadow. He's in such a bad place.
That's so cool.
It's interesting because it's the writer's dilemma, always finds its way onto the screen. With Gunn, it's like, what is his place on the show? That's something we as writers have talked about. He had the romance with Fred. He's got his attitude. He's a great actor, but sometimes you're like, okay, well, exactly how do we service the character? And this was a way of him sort of saying, well, I'm frustrated by that.
Right.
And it's also a way of saying Wesley's the coolest man alive.
But I remember when we were playing this, obviously this tension between the characters had been building for a long time, and we were so anxious as actors to get into that tension and let it fly. No, that's such a sweet prop. But you were so right, I say this after the fact, in holding us back so that...
Well, this shot particularly, which we had to do a lot of times to get just right, it was how to say this without making it sound self-pitying or threatening.
Yeah,
it's just an observation.
Exactly.
The way you look down, that little blink, that's what did it.
I remember we did that a
by
bunch
the way,
of times.
is the end of a 1.5-minute shot that took 2 hours to set up that I cut. Never used the crane. It went all the way around everybody's face as Andy walked behind them, and then all the way up, and did a 360, and it was a whole thing, and never ever do an elaborate crane move unless it is absolutely a vital part of the show. And I can't believe I, of all people, forgot that rule when I'm so cheap. And then when we were long, out it came. Now this was also an attempt to keep it something different from Tabula Rasa, the Buffy episode where they lose their memory. Instead of blacking out, I decided that they would all do mushrooms.
Yeah, that was his note.
And
just imagine the drugs are kicking in.
And of course, I had to explain to them all what mushrooms were and what that meant because they hadn't themselves never.
No, this was all just imagination on our part.
And kind of brilliant, but so much fun. So much fun to see. And the music of this shot slapped on a 14 lens. And
Fred just tripping out on the tree.
And really experiencing the tree, and of course throwing up on the tree. And you here, Jay with his little martial arts.
We'll just wait to see if there are any side effects. I just remember going, feel the rush.
Yeah. And there's always one person who has to ruin the mushroom trip for everybody else. The old, what if we've just taken poison?
No, don't harsh my melon.
You said melon, not mellow. Oddly.
I didn't.
Okay.
I won't go there.
What the hell is going on here?
This was some of the most fun I got to have with Charisma in the longest time because she'd become so noble, and then tortured and memory loss, and to get her to play the stuff she used to play back in the first couple of years of Buffy was just such a treasure. She's hilarious in this stuff.
Yeah, the old wisecrack and Cordelia.
You don't know Cordelia.
It was interesting.
This is, of course, the callback to episode 5 of season 1 of Buffy when she first met him. You were saying?
I was anxious to see what the old Gunn and Fred would be like, because those aren't characters that we've met in their youth, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, Gunn always has an attitude, but here you can tell he's just, I love what he did because it's kind of subtle. It's just, he's just a little bit more pissed off, a little bit more street,
exactly.
A little bit more.
You see that guy before he joined Angel.
Before, he saw the big picture.
This is a clarion call for Snippety, Princess Charles.
It's Wesley. Thank you.
Oh, and you are such a ponce.
Yeah, what a prig.
Head boy.
I can't say I didn't enjoy it.
A lot of effort, I don't
He's such a buffoon.
Or you could have gone big. That's another way to go with that. But
it was an option, but I went for subtlety.
Yeah.
School to you, Tad.
And Fred, her thing of just being kind of, your low key D&D playing stoner.
Yeah, Texas high school kid.
Yeah.
Excuse my cold, by the way, everybody.
And my chlamydia. I hope it's not coming out on the soundtrack. And then the reality of Angel's character being completely in the wrong time. Before he was a vampire, before he was anything, when he was just a teenager, didn't like his dad, much like his own son.
Yeah. It's sort of before Angel is empowered, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And David's actually funny.
And he's hilarious. He gets so vulnerable.
Bye now.
Testing his voice, not having an Irish accent because we didn't want him to have to do it for the whole episode.
Right.
So we played the joke of it. And Wesley instantly being in a mystery, a Miss Marple mystery.
Yes, absolutely. Appointing himself as the chief detective in the case.
Probably involved.
And what?
Interesting that she becomes a conspiracy person in the end of the season just by coincidence.
That's true, yeah.
They ask you about. Y'all don't even know.
I got no problem with the idea that the man is messing.
Judging from the amount of facial hair I've grown, we've all been unconscious for at least a month.
Government gave that.
That is truly,
Just the thing. Perhaps the whole point of
Wesley
this
has no idea how to
just-
deal with the opposite sex.
Yeah. Well, we paint from life.
Um,
Ooh, I said that out loud.
It was a real challenge for us all to treat each other as if we had no history together.
Well, maybe it's.
Very hard after 4 years to go back
Yeah.
and remove the comfort
Don't
that
be giving me orders. I run my own crew.
the characters had developed with each other.
But it's also fun to see the conflict that you guys have based on your history and then the conflict based on none.
Yes.
And also the thing you can do with your face when you make your chin disappear. I love that. I love that.
Years of yoga practice.
Karate technique will put you
The karate.
And I'd like to point out, I pulled this back again. That was the small version
the
of what
short
Alexis
version.
wanted to do. The cat face. That is one of the classics of all time. And just getting to use the knife, the stake.
I didn't get one.
Her assumption that you have to do all of that
In order
pop
to
out.
have a...
Like it's a code, but to use that as a very dramatic device, and then use it as a completely comic device more than once. It appears several times this show.
This particular one, of course, is CGI.
Yes, beautifully rendered.
So you,
Think about it.
Because this was all about putting as much stuff in the frame as possible, comedy-wise. It was, they're falling around in the background. He's fumbling about in the foreground.
I knew it.
And then the thing you did with your pants.
Why's the devil sleepy?
you really did just invite us to goof off. It's your own fault.
Yeah, well, no, I blame society.
And now we get some cool.
Because apparently you have to
full-on
have
stuff.
action, and it's a thing. I'm the laziest man alive. I love to shoot the talking, but luckily Mike Massa coming up with the great action, and you'll notice the entire scene is shot in one direction. We never actually turn around, even when she leaves, because time constraints.
Time.
Yeah, we just I knew you could shoot it so that no one would really notice, but. Everything is played in a three-wall set kind of way, so that we had the big rig where he that he used to pull him up for the wire gag when he jumps up and kicks them both, and everything, the entire crew.
But sometimes those time constraints bring out something cool.
They really do.
Otherwise, you do this, two sides push in.
Yeah, over two shot.
Yeah.
It can get really boring.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite moments for Connor too. Very vulnerable. It's just like, yes, I'd like to have sex with you. I don't. Okay. Why? No, I can't. See, we just kept it all in that direction.
That's great.
It all worked. Now this is also one of my favorite frames. Because of the way you come into it. Tying him to the poof was Amy's idea.
And what a great idea.
What an important idea it was.
The duct tape.
I had been going through the set over and over. I knew I wanted him close by and them in the background, but I couldn't figure out how to place him and what to do. And that, with the poof, I could do whatever I wanted.
That creature's a vampire?
Nah, I ain't never seen.
Her not cracking up and Andy not cracking up while she was poking at him. Was
Except that they did.
very different. Well, yes, I know. That wasn't take one you're looking at.
Which meant that we had to do this fight over and
you guys
over
had to
again.
fight and fight and fight and
because
fight.
these two in the foreground kept giggling.
Yes, but later on we're going to discover another thing about giggling, aren't we?
I don't know what you're referring to.
This is
Jay and
one of
I
my
may have
favorite
done a little
postmodern
bit of
moments.
giggling too. Charisma actually landed that shot, by the way.
Yeah, there were no stunt effect sounds in that.
Nor were there shin guards, which I now regret.
Because you're a big one. Everything designed very carefully to keep you guys in the hotel.
Yes.
Because I didn't want to spend the money to send you somewhere else. And also,
Well, you
very
don't
important
need to
have
go out of the... I mean,
No.
it makes it more... As the story unfolds, it makes it more frightening for them
Yes.
to not know what's outside.
It also works, in, the locked room thing. That we're all here, the 10 little Indians.
Yeah,
so
it's
that
just thinking that it becomes the mystery and the...
it's kind of a classic structure.
All the
But you
guests
have to
called
do a lot of
together.
dancing to keep them from, because, so many people are like, why don't they just leave?
Right. But if you keep it moving quickly enough, they don't.
I love him here. This is very much
Yeah.
old gun.
Yeah.
Same white folks trying to tell me.
Wesley just not getting him at all.
Well, the idea that there's some basic conflict between you guys is nice. Like some things disappear and then some things are always
This is
there.
about my hair.
Little moment of revelation here.
Highbrow humor is really
Yes.
the mark of what I do. Yeah, I'm not proud.
Were we talking
I'll go
about
for
melons
I'll
earlier?
go for the booby joke if I
Yeah.
have to. It's all about ratings. No.
So you think if we
This sort of really lays the groundwork for
never
the next, the middle sequence
Yes,
of the
that-
piece, which is, okay, they go out to try and solve the mystery.
You're trying to get all this in one.
I
Thank God
know,
we had the
you
B
did.
camera because the B camera chopped it up perfectly. Otherwise, it's actually a lot of times I try and get things all in one shot, and they're very static and kind of boring.
Weed.
It's just the use of the word weed.
Wesley never.
There's nothing hip about it.
He's thinking dill, fennel.
That's right. Some borage, perhaps. I think Minstrels is probably about as broad and silly as I've ever gotten. But
Are you
David
sure?
completely commits to this character.
Yeah.
This lost buffoon of his own.
The singing box.
He and actually better at falling down in real life than almost anybody. Not
Amazingly, yeah.
intentionally in the strictest sense of the word, but
It's mostly all he does.
he enjoyed. It was nice to, you have to find your emotional center, and that emotional center ultimately, generally, is going to be Angel because he's, his name appears somewhere in the title, and to have, this turn into the metaphor of, I'm different than the rest, a gay metaphor or just a metaphor for being an adolescent, which, sort of ends up connecting him to his son. But I'm different from everybody else because I'm this.
Yes. His is more specific, but it is something that almost every adolescent feels.
A lot of sort of male adolescent problems, physical problems, are very specifically dealt with by you and by him. In this, we get a masturbation joke, actually, which is the face turning back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the squeaky noise and almost being interrupted. That's not unintentional. Again, highbrow, sort of a Jane Austen sort of a humor. That's really my forte.
Speaks for itself, really.
It does. But it was there, not just because I'm a goof. And
They're gonna kill me.
he's
I
great
love
there.
that. He's so small.
Truly one of my favorite things I've ever written.
I
But,
love that you have him commenting on the commercials.
But of course, less impact here on DVD, where
That's
there weren't
true.
any commercials.
That's
But
true.
at the time, the day of broadcast, that was a big thing. Whoever got to say that?
I know, it's just it keeps bending reality, like he's wrapped around what you're watching.
Breaking the fourth wall way more than I ever do, but still keeping the story with its own integrity. Now we were talking about things that happen to boys when they're adolescents that they can't control. You're about to represent yet another one of those. This actually represents, there were a couple of problems in post. They added a whooshing noise during the dissolves, during the sort of mushroom sequence. And more importantly, we had picked out a take where Amy says naked. And it was so southern and cute. And then it ended up sounding too much like naked in the last.
Lord, and did whatever they wanted to my naked, helpless body.
Now, we've all been there, say in class or at the gym, showering with the other boys. Forget that last thing that I said.
Exploratory.
This is my favorite.
Don't be afraid.
That's your least funny line and the funniest thing in the show is you going, "Don't be afraid."
Such a genuine moment there where he's trying to reach out and
Yes.
has no idea how and ends up patting her on the hair.
You are really just dorkier even than I imagined when I wrote the script, which is so beautiful.
If that's possible.
Bringing more dork to the party. Okay, we're
That's
getting.
just my own inner truth.
This is another example of we've got a lot to accomplish, so stack everybody up, try and keep it interesting, and keep the frame moving,
But
keep
I was
it
just gonna
changing,
say,
but all in one direction.
You've got the camera moving and the actors moving, so it doesn't feel like...
Except for one shot of you, which we don't have there. It's later. See, all of this part plays in this proscenium, all looking in like one or two directions.
Yeah, you mostly shot this on a big fat wide.
Yeah, because but it doesn't feel that way
No.
if you get it right. Now let's talk about when people get it wrong. There's our little quick second unit thing.
Dear.
They did a very good job of making cars that were going about 2 miles an hour look like they were going quickly.
Appear to be roaring past Angel, who's
David
never
also
seen it.
not afraid to go big. Now, this is a scene that took us an extra hour and a half to shoot, primarily because of two men.
I blame you, sir.
David Boreanaz and Alexis Denisof could not stop laughing. As a result, not one of us, myself included, could stop laughing. Look at this.
Watch.
When they talk, they don't look at each other.
We can't.
Because they couldn't.
We
They
had
literally,
to
Alexis had to look
stop.
away from David because they were laughing so hard. And then they'd finally get one right, and Amy would lose it in the middle of them.
We were weeping.
Or Jay would lose it.
It was tears.
The
truly
line
tears.
producer, Kelly Manners, had to come down. You're laughing your way into midnight, kids. He was just...
He got yelled at.
And I was like, what could I say? I didn't know why this scene. I didn't think it was
Because you
funny.
set the situation up of these kids in this room who are afraid to go outside the door because there are shiny cars that they think are demons. And when David comes in
Yes.
to describe that, and then
Again, trying to be the Poirot figure,
Yes.
really give the big, and always interrupted or failing. But no, this was impossible. We lost so much time.
And then, of course, from that, all of this made us laugh, as you can
Yeah,
see.
you could see that both David and Amy were kind of losing it there a little
Just-
bit. They just
You put
couldn't
one
put
thing
it
after
together.
another, Joss, and there was just no way to get through it.
Well, that's the great thing when you have all of you guys. It just there's so much to work off of. It didn't write itself, but it really did. Just kind of, everybody's attitude is perfect, and they're not all on the same page, which is the problem you get.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite gags too, and that's since Xander had to shake the cross because it wasn't working when he tried it on Willow in episode 16 of season 3.
The cross scanner.
The cross scanner. But David trying not to laugh.
No vampire here.
Of course, that applies to most episodes.
Yes, he does get the giggles, but
Got
this
a
was the
very,
worst.
very cute little giggle.
This was the worst. Then by the time we got to this, you guys were all
We
over
kind of
it.
had it
Yeah.
together by then.
You came back. We sort of
But I-
change axes here.
Hey, that was quite a whammy. A little trip.
No, actually, there was still some laughing.
I think there might have been.
And in fact, I bet Kelly $1 that whether David could get through the take without laughing or
Yeah.
not. So we were still in laughing mode here.
What's going on?
We were hoping you would enlighten us.
But as this scene progressed, David and I we just decided we couldn't look at each other at all.
No,
Because there was not going to be any other way to get through this.
you look at it carefully, and you are never in
You'll
a shot
find
looking
it.
at each
No,
other.
there's one very fleeting glance.
Yes.
There.
But there you go.
As long as we're not doing it at the
was
same
very-
time, it's safe.
Very brave of Boreanaz to do that. To look towards you.
That's it.
See,
there it is.
There it is.
Yeah,
That slight
now it's
almost
so
smile.
well. And I
Yes.
think it's because I remember I was doing that big take on his right side of him.
Ow.
And they made the green demon purple in that.
And the poof taking the hit and making it seem huge.
Yeah, that
Great
really
way
worked.
without-
When we shot
without
that, I thought
spending
that
much
looked so
money.
lame, but it's
Yeah.
fantastic on camera.
Plays a lame ass couple.
So now,
Again.
obviously, the story has shifted.
Are all the same, my
The,
friend. There's
the
nothing
demon
human
is
about them.
among us.
Yes, but you're completely on the side of the demon in that. Poor Jay always had to adjust his axe so it would be in frame. I was
Yeah.
like, move it here, move
Yeah.
it there, move it there. Oh. Ow, she touches him and he something happens. It spurts.
ejaculates,
You could almost say
yes.
spurts. Again, sort of male sexual ridiculousness. An adolescent theme that I read about.
Right.
From
No,
some
we know
nerds
nothing about
that
this in our own
that I
lives.
heard about. I love her little eyes up there. But there's a lot of neck. The beginning of manhood, and also
Yes.
a fun shot because that was a CGI pullout, and then they stuck it in your hand, and you put
Yeah,
it in
that's
frame,
right. And then we
doing
used
both
it,
at
so.
once.
I remember our props guy Sparky crouching down below the
Yes.
camera to slip that into my hand so we could keep the shot running.
This was another. Now we go in handheld because things are getting a little creepier because But our sympathies are kind of with him, no matter how creepy he is.
Yeah,
because he's the picked on guy.
Right.
And,
You're still remembering the vulnerable guy from earlier.
Strong, too.
Also, he's discovering.
Yes. Wait, something
What
very
this
important is coming up real soon.
Prepared my own hotshot.
This was second unit. We shot this after we finished the
that's
show.
right.
Yeah, they were
That's
shooting
right.
the next episode over on the next stage.
I love her face.
She's the best screamer that we
Yeah.
ever had.
Oh dear.
Yes.
John
you know,
Cleese, you have a lot to answer for.
it just had to have at least one Westfall.
Yeah. In fact, I think that was absolutely our MO on that, was that we realized going into this day that we hadn't done,
The fall.
having said, oh, we need Wesley falling, we hadn't actually shot a big Wesley fall, had
Yeah, we had Fred
So-
falling in the background when you were fumbling with your thing.
Yeah.
So
So we
you gave
thought,
me everything.
We
I
did
gave
one-
you shin guards, and you gave me everything else. Now this is leading up to the fact that we knew they were going to have sex in the very next episode, even though they're not themselves, or she's not herself. And we were sort of forced into that, basically because Charisma herself had become pregnant, and so we had an arc for them, and we sort of just moved everything up much quicker. Things had to happen faster. So by the end of next episode, things were so bad that they thought they were going to die, but we sort of foreshadowed it here with that.
so you're laying the
laying the
ground for
groundwork
that.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And also his frustration with women who keep offering him things he doesn't get, and getting to match what's going on with Angel.
Poor Andy.
Yes. Now, as I recall, somebody kept tightening his bonds.
I don't know what you mean.
I think, as I recall, they kept adding more tape and not letting him out between takes.
What?
And yeah, I distinctly remember somebody.
Josh, you're so cruel to your actors. Were you tickling him as well?
No, I really wasn't. I was busy trying to figure out what the next shot was, or
Oh.
where I was.
Oh, that must
or-
have been me.
Yes, it was you. You were so mean. But you're a bad
Only
bad
because I
man.
love him.
This is another location, kitchen.
Yeah, this was a great old restaurant actually in LA, a classic kind of Rat Pack place on Wilshire.
Are you not a vampire yourself then?
The decor of the place, but none of which we show, was really intense, very old school.
Upstairs.
Fine, a lot of it.
No,
That is my father.
now we're using the creepy kitchen.
Fathers.
Their little
This is
connection
kind of a
with our
great
father.
flip-flop that only this device could afford, which is to have the Connor actually know more about the situation than Angel.
And to have Angel making all the complaints Connor's used to
Yeah,
hearing.
and so sort of the father-son role gets flopped in this scene.
You're afraid to fight me?
Truth to tell, I'm not much for fighting.
I love what Mike did here. I love everything that Mike Massa does.
Oh my God, he's king, isn't he?
Yeah, just the two of them going at the same time. The great thing is to get into a space like this and sort of start to figure out your options. You can fall here, you can do
Yeah.
this, you can use that.
I think that's
I mean,
Mike's.
they had a thing to swing off of. I mean, you know.
And he uses it. Wherever
Yeah.
you take him, Mike says, oh, we can do this.
Hurry up, Hanover.
Again, a homely girl. But, we do
What do you gotta work
you do
with
with
what you
lights
got? Yeah.
and lenses and things, and you get what you can. David, always really, really good at action.
Yeah.
His punches are very convincing.
Yeah. Very good.
And so far as I know, he hasn't actually punched anybody, as a lot of actors who are like, I can do my own stunts will
That's
do,
right.
and then they just
Hospitalized there.
Yeah, exactly.
Fellow actor.
Yeah, or the stunt person they're working with, they just slam them.
You happy now?
Not bad for a guy with a bad knee, too.
Yeah.
Ask for this.
It's all
We've all been there, haven't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was
I
all
didn't
on
ask for
theme.
this.
Wait.
We're gonna have a little moment of bonding.
Another beating?
It's very beautiful.
Bondage? Joss, you're sick.
What? No, well, we cut that out, remember?
And now
Yeah.
the spell is broken.
And what I love, again, is what we used for enormous humor plays into enormous sadness because, they all know the situation between them. And to put all three of them in the shot, that was, I had tape on the monitor specifically so I know exactly where
they're
the
going.
piano started so I could line those two things up.
I love
to get
that.
the three of you in frame.
That beautiful moment, too, where they all three are kind of look at each other and can't look at each other, and then they walk separately away.
To do something as silly as this and then buy back the
Have it
reality
mean
of-
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, that's really the trick, isn't it? Because if it doesn't, at the end, if it's just a gay romp,
It was just, then it's just a device.
yeah, you miss out.
This propelled the characters' stories.
And having Andy sort of pseudo playing what the composer was doing, our first vision of the beast.
Yeah.
Seeing again, it's a sort of fourth wall breaker. It's like he's playing the score. Of course, he wasn't actually playing anything.
When we played that scene too, and it was towards the end of the shoot, I remember feeling a genuine, profound sadness that the spell was over. It was like this week of just frivolity and all of us having the fun of
We really shot
going back, and it really was there. I mean, there was no acting required. We were just like, oh,
yeah, it's true.
It's over.
Something happened. It was similar to what happened when we did Waiting in the Wings. We cast a little spell.
There was a little magic, wasn't there?
And we were in a different place.
Yeah.
And not that show's not fun to make, but it really was, shooting that really was goodbye to all that. A little brief shining moment.
I think that was a very special episode.
A very special episode of Angel. And then to bookend from the beginning of
just
this,
fantastic.
I think the two of them also have never been better. They gave me everything here.
This is
And I
huge
have to be alone.
for the characters.
It's something I actually first did on Angel, the shot where she leaves and goes out of focus, where we don't follow her focally because she's beyond us. It really accentuates this.
Were we in love?
Nice.
We were.
See, that's
Yeah.
very deliberate kind of.
That's his vision.
Yeah, it takes
as
you,
well, isn't it?
Yes.
Blurring.
And then the final hit, which is all of this lovely nightclub act was played to an empty stage.
Yeah.
There was never anybody there.
You
We're
clever
all
bastard.
alone. Notice how I managed to get in that we're all alone, even in this one. Now, I think we should just sing for the closing credits.
All right, what do you want to say?
Angel is a vampire who solves
Yes,
crimes.
he does,
He's
with his
great.
friends, the gang.
Wesley will never get a leather jacket because he'll
What?
never be cool,
Oh.
no matter what he does.
This episode sucked.
Dude, it was lame. Well, that's all we have time for today. Hope you had fun.
Yay.
God, we're boring.
Dude, did I say harsh your melon earlier?
You really did.
Oh, God. I have a cold.